Hey, hello everyone. So let's get started. Let's get started. So yesterday I went to the AI camp and the event is pretty successful. There's hundreds of people come to the event and everybody are so interested in our project and what we have built. As I promised, I will re-record this presentation so everybody going to be able to listen to what I exactly talked about in the event. So apparently, I think the re-record video quality will be better. I try to keep the energy as good as the live event, but talking to a couple hundreds of people and versus talk to the camera a little bit different. Yeah, so let's get started just like what I did yesterday. So probably let's go started about who am I. So my name is Robert Mao. I'm a former Microsoft research guy. And one of the fun fact is my team in Microsoft Research, they eventually built the first famous generative AI bot, chatbot called Tai. Unfortunately, that AI bot didn't go well. And the other good news is I didn't build that. So at the time, I already left Microsoft and working on my startup. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. Serial entrepreneur, it sounds like a serious killer, right? But the difference is serious killer, kill people, but serious entrepreneur, building killer apps. So we use the technology to nail the technology. So right now, I'm a founder and CEO of ArcBlock. So ArcBlock is a platform to help developers to build blockchain decentralized applications. And now it's also very helpful a platform for the AI and large language model build applications. So today's topic, so the title of the topic is a large language model ops, the tools and the best practice. But I decided to change the topic to a story, the story of how we build AIGNE. So AIGNE is our solution's name for the AI. The agent's name directly come from AI engine. We want it be the engine for the applications that are using AI. So that's AIGNE. And AIGNE is also an Irish word. In the Irish, it means spirit or mind. I think that's a perfect name for the AI. And who don't want the artificial intelligence? Eventually, it has a spirit and has a mind to help us to do a lot more cool stuff, right? So, and actually, AIGNE is also a small town's name in South France. That's a very beautiful places. I wish I could be there. I didn't be in that specific AIGNE town before. But that gave me a good reason for the next time when I go to visit France. I'm probably going to visit there. So AIGNE right now is incubated in ArcBlock. So that basically means this is actually one of the blocklet that built on top of ArcBlock platform. So before I talk about the AIGNE and what is large language model ops, I would like to share my stories of building the large language model apps from a hobby, right? The first time when I see the large language model at work is really getting me super excited. I believe a lot of you, when you first time try ChatGPT, you probably get really astonished that the AI actually are beyond expectation, right? It just, there's never this kind of a AI chatbot that can be so knowledgeable and so good like a human. To talk to you. And most importantly, it know a lot of knowledge. I remember the first time I tried to use a GPT-3. At the time, ChatGPT is not released yet, but I'm using a GPT-3 powered, writer. I tried to write something about ArcBlock. So actually the AI understand what ArcBlock is. It also understand what's advantage of the ArcBlock. I get so surprised. And then I realized that this generative AI thing is no longer just the some of those kind of writer helpers in the past. It now has a lot of knowledge, and so that's really getting me super excited. But then quickly, after you try to use the ChatGPT a bit, you probably get disappointed with so-called a large language model hallucination, right? So today, I just reposted one of the tweet from one of the researchers. He basically stated that large language model hallucination is basically it's a feature, not a bug. Because all the large language model is essentially is dreaming different things, is following the prompt, dream different dreams. Since it is dream, so there definitely has a lot of possibility to have these hallucinations. So that basically means you probably in the very long future, there's no way for you to eliminate hallucination in the large language model, and you have to live with it, right? So there's a bunch of different technology to help you to reduce the hallucinations, but that is actually when I, just to get beginning with the large language model, I begin to disappointed with this. Since with a lot of hallucinations, the problem is you cannot verify if the answer from large language model is correct or not. And how could that be useful? What I use that to be is basically use that to write some kind of jokes or write some fake news to just as a joke to send to the friends. And also, I joined a lot of interesting technical groups. Those groups are some of them in the WeChat, in Telegram, in Discord, and also in some social medias, right? So people who are really interested in this large language model are discussing what we can do with it. So one of the interesting talk I remember at the time I participated is, can we turn hallucination from a bug to a feature? That is basically to say, there's a lot of things. That probably with some kind of imagination, we call it imagination, right? And sometimes we call it intuition. So who can say the human imagination and human intuition is not a kind of hallucination? Maybe the whole life is but a hallucination, right? It's that's so funny. So since our intuition is actually could be a hallucination, there's actually a few things that we're doing all the time. For example, the astrology, the horoscope, and in Chinese there's 周易八卦. Those are kind of prediction. They are, you can say it's an intuition or it's kind of a skill or knowledge, but you can also say that is probably a special kind of hallucinations. Or at least large language models hallucinations probably can do great use in this kind of area, right? The other potential area is a psychology. Sorry, psychology, and there's analyst in the psychology, and I remember one of my favorite book in my university is Interpretation of the Dreams. Right? One of my roommate, he really liked it, and he introduced this to me, and so that's a very funny book to read. So if this kind of if we can turn the large language models hallucinations into some of those kind of area that is need some more creativity and need more imaginations and really not that accurate, that probably could be some very interesting application opportunities, right? So one Friday, exactly in Bellevue, and I'm sending my daughter to one of the class. So I have 2 hours spare time I have to spend in the coffee shop. So I spend about like 1 hour or so to working on a very simple MVP, so minimal viable product. So this is a very simple astrology application that built on top of GPT 3.5 with OpenAI's, right? So this application is is super simple. I only built that with about 1 hour or so. After I built this, I shared this link to this application in the social media, right? In my WeChat, in my Facebook, and say, hey, friends, everybody, and I built this AI astrology apps, and just to tell you, give it your birthday, it's going to give you some report of astrology report, right? And I also shared this with a few of my groups and say, hey, I built an interesting app. Try it. I feel this is just like a joke because the application itself, the core part of this application, the prompt, is probably just two lines of prompt. The prompt is super simple. It just say, hey, you are, tell the large language model, say you are an astrologist. And this is based on the user's input, and write a astrology report. So that is it. I could say the answer is nearly pure random. But the surprising happened when I shared to the social media. Within 24 hours, there's more than 1,000 users actually tried this application. Right? I did quite a bunch of other apps, and actually rarely people tried that, but people show a lot of kind of interest to this. And also, I get a bunch of people who are actually fans of astrology or astrologists. They reach out to me, and they are so excited and talking with me about how they feel about this application, right? And even more crazier, there's some of my investor friends. They actually offered money, say, hey, let's build this. This is definitely going to be go viral. This is just a very interesting demo apps that I built within 2 hours, and with 2 core line of the prompt to the AI. Most of other works is just hooking up the UI and do some other things, but that caught a lot of interest. That made me think, hey, so why not just build this? Because building this, first of all, is one of my hobby. I like the astrology since my university, and that's actually a very interesting and entertaining part of that, right? And I understand quite a bit. But the more important is I want to build a real complex application that using large language model, and especially using the large language model's hallucination part to turn that into not a bug, but a feature, right? And also more important is by building this kind of a complex large language model application, that will help us understand better to build a real serious applications on large language model. What do we need to do, right? So at the time, you may ask, hey, the talk is about large language model ops. What is that? Honestly, at that time, I have no idea what it is. I didn't even know this LLMOps, large language model ops. I didn't even know this word exists. But I just say, hey, let's build the application. Let's just build a serious application, and from that, we're going to learn what we really need to make this kind of application better, right? So when we seriously started to build an astrology app, we can no longer work with just 2 lines of the prompt, just faking the answers. We need to seriously do astrology computations. And also we need to do a lot of work that is a prompt. So the prompt itself sounds very easy. If any of you ever run some kind of demo application, you pull the source code, and you will find they have this kind of prompt that is basically a huge string. It's like a magic, right? Once you run the application, everything works well until you try to change something in the prompt. So prompt is basically like a magic. So there's a lot of people also develop the different skills on the prompt. For example, people discovered if you add one of the magic word in the prompt, like let's think step by step, the AI will going to do better. So that's already a common skill and knowledge people know to write a prompt. There's something like basically it's like a joke, but it's not a joke. It's real. I think a couple of weeks ago I read one of the papers said if you add to the prompt, say this is very important to me, you need to do that seriously. Okay, the result is going to be better. And people also discovered, say, if you add to the prompt, say, I'm going to tip you $100, right? So the large language model is an AI machine. $100 means nothing to it. But guess what? The result is better. And also recently I read somebody say, they're going to threaten the LLM, say, if you don't work hard on this prompt, I'm going to break your fingers. Right? Guess what? It's also performed better. So I'm thinking, oh, shoot. When the mankind, try to threaten the AI by, sending those kind of a prompt into the prompts, there's no wonder why some of them thinking that humanity could be a risk if the AI really takes control, right? So when we write the prompt in the beginning, there are always people. There are always two kind of people. One kind of people is basically sending orders to the large language model. Another type of people is using very polite word. Is please do something, blah blah blah, to the large language model. Right? It's like basically like, does that make it better? Nobody know. So anyway, so prompt engineering is something that is really is actually sounds very easy, but actually indeed is not, right? So that's how we eventually discovered that there's a lot of the so-called prompt frameworks people discovered. Prompt frameworks are basically some certain format of the prompts. So follow those format, you're going to be able to write a better prompt. For example, there is called a broke, B-R-O-K-E prompt. That is basically break that into the background, the rows, objective, key result, and evolve. So that's called a broke framework. There are also called a crisp, is capacity in the rows, insight, statement, personality, and that's basically, and experiments. So those are different part of those kind of prompt framework. And so for example, in here, this is a tool, AIGNE, we are building for the prompt editing. So in this part, you can format different prompt with this kind of nice editors, and you can very easily to add new prompts, and you can very easily to change the prompt from the system to the user to assistant. You can also quickly adjust the position of your prompt. So basically that makes you to format the prompt easier. You can also quickly add this kind of magic word to it, like let's think step by step. And you can quickly remove it and change the position and to see how it works, right? Yeah. So that's a first important part for building a real application. You really need a lot of time, to understanding prompt engineering. So somebody think prompt engineering is actually the future of the programming, because in the future, if you want to talk to the computer, you no longer needed to use a program language to instruct it, right? Instead, you just give them the prompt. The prompt is like a natural language, and the computer will going to follow whatever you prompted to do it, right? But some other people thinking that prompt might be not that important. Maybe in the future the AI developed so well, so they're going to just understand whatever you wanted to say, right? So we can see in the image generative community, in the beginning the prompt is super important. You basically need to know how to write the prompt. But then when the GPT-4's DAI-3 coming out, and also the recent new generative graphic AI coming out, the prompt become less important. You just describe whatever you want. The AI going to optimize your prompt and turn that into the instruction you understand. So will prompt engineering be important or not? Nobody know. Let's see. Let's wait and see. But from my point of view, I think prompt engineering is pretty important. At least in the near term, prompt engineering is actually indeed the way you communicate with the AI. The better prompt you can write, the better quality of the application can become. So to be able to write the best prompt, you need to test, right? Without testing, how can you say the prompt is worked or not, right? So that's actually one of the important part of our AIGNE is working on, is basically it provides the user interface is provide the IDE for the users. Whenever you write the prompt, you can quickly run it. So you can see the result. You can also, from this screenshot here, you can also see you can put different test cases. So you can run all those test cases to see if your prompt works well. Right. The reason why we need a test and the test automation is, first of all, you need to determine which large language model. Today, OpenAI is one of the solutions, right? There's also other solutions like open source Llama, right? There's several other. In China, they say that there's like more than 50 different large language models over there. Even you just stick with OpenAI, the OpenAI provided GPT-3, GPT-3.5, GPT-4, and also you potentially can have the model from the fine-tuned model. You can also have something from Windows Azure. So basically, you need to determine to create a good application, which kind of a large language model you should use, right? So how to determine it? The best way is test it. You write some prompt to see if this model works for you. What is the performance looks like. So which large language model, which model, and which prompt, all of those depends on the test. With the test, and you're going to be able to deploy with confidence. You will know that I'm not by just guessing because I already tested, right? Because I have test cases. So to build an application that need to constantly kind of improve and changing, automated test is so important. That's already discovered in software engineer for a very long time. So the third part we think important is the orchestration. So orchestration is something. So honestly, when we started to build our astrology applications, we didn't realize that there's orchestration at all, because if you run all of those kind of test demo applications, they're so simple. Most of those prompts, they call it like one-shot prompt. So you're basically, one prompt, you don't need orchestration. But if you want to build a real application, you will find that one prompt is usually not enough. You need a lot of prompts. For example, in our astrology apps, to generate a report, you need many different prompts, and some of those prompts need to run at the same time, and then you stick them together. Some of those prompts you probably need another prompt to check it and to make decisions which prompt to call, right? And some of of those are not really well fit for the large language model, especially you see for the astrology, because astrology is something that is related to the planets and the universe and the time and the locations. You need a lot of mathematical calculations. So large language model is not great for that part. In this case, you need a traditional, write a traditional code to do all those kind of computations. But you need to the prompts and the code and sometimes some API calls, you need them to work together, to finally working together to work for the user, to create this application. To make all of those working together, we call that orchestrations. We started by using LangChain. So LangChain is a very popular framework. We started with LangChain, but we quickly discovered that LangChain, some of the designs of the LangChain does not really fit what we need. And we also investigated one of the similar solutions from Microsoft called semantic kernels. And semantic kernel is really, I think a semantic kernel is a pretty good one. But eventually we developed our own model. Our own model is basically the function-based model. The function-based model basically means we just treat the prompt, the API calls, or any code. We just treat them exactly the same as a function, right? So as a function, one function can call another function, and the function they can call with each other. That's basically the functional, like a functional programming, right? So in this kind of a function model, we don't need to care about if this function is a prompt or if that function is actually some code, or that function is a RPC, is a like API call, right? So we don't need to care about it because we treat them all the same as a function. And so basically our framework to make this working, make those kind of a function-based model working for the prompt and for the API and for the real code, JavaScript code. So after that talk, there's quite a few people come to ask me, why do we need orchestration in the prompt? And so I realized that this is probably something for the developers a little bit harder to understand in the beginning. So when we built this, I found when we started build this, I found that to make those kind of prompt work together, it sounds to be very simple. For example, you have one prompt, you get some result, and then you decide to call another prompt. It's very easy to do that on the code. For most of those demos, for example, in LangChain, they show you, they basically have the code. The prompt is just one part, but you also need the code to do it, right? But if you want to build an application that need a lot of prompt, especially when you want to debug this prompt, you want to make this prompt working with each other together. If every time you make some change, you need to change the code, it's going to be very, very inefficient. So we built this framework to ensure that when you write those prompts, even some of the prompt call each other, or some of the prompt that call the code, or the code call the prompt, you don't need to write anything. You just do it in this IDE. So I think this is one of the big value that we created in the AIGNE. So of course the version management, that is since we're going to change the prompt, and sometime you could change something and break something and you want to go back. So the version control is a very common technique that software engineering have been used for a very, very long time. So in AIGNE, we just adopt the version control together into the IDE. So anytime when you have the IDE, you're going to, for example, here, you're going to very easily see there's versions here, and we use a Git to adopt the whole things. So it also works with GitHub, so you can very easily to have the version control, and then you push the prompt code and prompt change to the GitHub. So that's very convenient. And of course, there's more things. There's deployment. For example, the deployment, once you finish the prompt, you needed work in the production, and you probably also need a test version. And sometimes you need a test version and the production to be switched. Sometimes you probably also need some kind of A/B testing. So that is also important to deploy the real application. And of course, once you have the application running, you need to monitor it to ensure that your system is working properly. For example, I mentioned the chatbot didn't go well in Microsoft Thai is because once it's running, then people try to kind of game with it and play with it and to let it say some bad things, right? So that basically means if you use the AI bot, when your bot could potentially talking to others, you need to keep monitoring it. And also you need analytics. The analytics help you to understand how the performance is going, how the cost is going, because if you are using those large language models, it usually costs money to run. You need to ensure that you're providing a service that is efficient and also cost effective. The final one is a feedback management, because AI is something based on the probabilities, especially when you have a lot of users. The user can give you feedback. So those user feedback will be very, very valuable. And if you can manage them, once you can get the user feedback, you kind of improve your prompt, maybe even fine tune your models, and refine your data. Your application is going to become better and better. And as you can see, some of them I have screenshots, some of them I don't have the screenshot. It's basically because when we build applications, we first focus on how to get it work, and then we eventually try to figure out what kind of them can be abstract and built into the user interface. So those kind of deployment, feedback management, and analytics, we haven't get it ready yet. So this is the final result. Finally, based on our try, we eventually built Astro. We get a great name for it. Again, is Astro is AI for astrology. So this Astro is actually have like more than 30 different prompt templates. That's basically that I call the prompt template. It means during the runtime, those templates are going to expand it to the actual prompt. So actually, there's more than 300 different prompts are actually need to orchestrate it together in order to produce all different kind of astrology report. The astrology report, it has a report for yourself, report for your daily, and a report for the compatibility between you and somebody else. And all those reports, some of the reports are daily generated, and we also need to kind of daily maintain a couple of different works. So some of that basically means we also need to automatically schedule the large language model tests to make it to run from time to time. So the whole Astro is building on the libraries and engines that is run on ArcBlock's Blocklet platform. And because somebody probably know that ArcBlock is aimed to is really care about the user privacy, and ArcBlock is based on the decentralized identity to protect the user privacy. So running the Astro on the ArcBlock Blocklet platform is really brings a lot of benefit for the enhanced privacy for the AI applications. So we have the Aistro app already now in App Store and Google Play stores. And when we release that, when we announce that, we made it to the number 2 in the product hunt, which is pretty good, right? So by building the Aistro, the astrology app, now we finally know what is large language model ops, right? So a large language ops application is basically a backend, is an engine, or is a backend to help developers build large language model applications easier, right? So here is what we have just building in the AIGNE. First is a prompt engineering. So AIGNE is about prompt engineering. So with AIGNE, you can easily write prompt without writing any code. You can easily debug the prompt and to have the test against those prompts. You can even have the test and evaluation automation to ensure that you have a confidence on the prompt you produced. We have prompt orchestrations to ensure that many different prompts they can work together. Right? We have deployment with a version and A/B experiments. We have monitoring and analytics, and we have feedback management. So the right diagram is one of the diagrams that I take from is one of the diagram I saw from the LinkedIn. That is from my former colleague in Microsoft. He basically write it really well, draw it really well into divide them into 8 different pieces from large language selection. So large language model selection, that is I covered in the test, right? In the test, you can use you can have the same prompt run with different large language model, different models. So that help you to make decisions on what kind of a model, what kind of large language to use. So that's number 1 in his diagram. His number 2 is prompt engineering. So that's what we have covered. His number 3 is data and service. So that is actually covered in our orchestrations, because in our orchestration, how to get the data, how to do the database queries or find out the external data. So that's basically for us is simply one of the functions that can put the data in. So the data and external service, that is the third part we already covered. Number 4 is evaluator development. So that's what we put into the test automation and the evaluations. Because some of those large language model prompt result is not the accurate answer like we used to have in the software development. In the software development, sometimes your function is just always going to be true or false, or always going to be some certain kind of numbers or strings, and you can very easily to accurate it to compare them to decide if your if your function is correct or not. So that's basically the evaluation in the traditional programming is much easier. But in the large language model, because what it generated, they are just could be the natural language. So evaluate sometimes is harder. But how to evaluate it? You probably guessed. We can use a large language model to evaluate large language model. So that is actually some important feature that we have built in. So you can write another prompt. So this prompt is actually used to evaluate the answers. And you usually use more advanced models to do the evaluation. For example, you probably always use GPT-4 to evaluate the prompt, no matter that prompt is executed on like a open sourced one or some other fine-tuned version. So that helps you evaluate it better. Of course, there's a continuous integration, so that's kind of version control, automatic test, A/B testing. That is what we covered, right? The deployment, monitoring, and online evaluation. So basically, you can see the Microsoft definition of the large language model ops is basically overlapped the same as what we defined, and we're pretty proud that we figured this out by building the application, because when we build the Astro, we realized by ourselves those are the tools, those are the best practice we need to build in the Astro, and then we abstract the requirements, and then we figure out, okay, this is a tool that every developers could be useful. So I also see this diagram from the A16Z. I think that is a very good diagram. So that basically described what is a emerging large language model application stack looks like, right? Because today's most of the news, if you care, most of the news, they're mostly about large language model companies, how they train the model, how they provide those kind of a service, how do they train the data, right? But most of the companies are actually not going to train the models. Instead, they're building the applications on top of that. I think A16Z did a very good job to draw this diagram. If you look at the diagrams, the green part of the diagram is I basically paint those green because those green part represented what ArcBlocks or ArcBlock's aging has been covered. So as you can see, so right now the ArcBlocks and our platform and the agent basically cover the most part of the building large language model apps. So aging right now is already in production today because we have the Astro already in production, and you also already see my quick demos of this application. So I can show you a quick demo of what it looks like. This is one of the agent that I installed in my computer, and in the agent we have this called project management. In the project management is basically for each of the project, there's a multiple different prompt here. In each of those prompt, I can edit them, I can debug them, I can have the test cases here. For example, this one, I have the prompt here. I have the 3 different test cases here. I can run those test cases. Those test cases will automatically simultaneously run at the same time to help me to understand if I did a good job in the prompt. So as I mentioned, that our agent right now is already in production, but we're still improving its UI and UX at this moment. So right now it's still for the private beta. You're welcome to join our private beta today. Just visit our website, http://agent.io, and you will be able to join our private beta waiting list. So there's 2 ways that you can run it. First, one way to do it is self-hosting. Is a little bit of setup is needed. We're going to set up a document or probably create a video to guide you through step by step. Basically, all you need to do is run a local version of our blocklet server, and then you can install AIGNE into the blocklet server. The other way is where it's hosted. You need the ABT tokens, so you will be able to launch AIGNE environment directly from our hosted blocklet server in the ArcBlock network. So scan this QR code, help you to get to the AIGNE website, and yeah. So thanks a lot. So that's all for the talks, and we're looking for the users, looking for partners, looking for customers. Even though AIGNE right now is in early stage, when we compare to other similar product, I think we have a lot of advantage, especially AIGNE's advantage together with ArcBlock. With the ArcBlock's decentralized identity to protect the data, keep the user data and private, not to send everything blindly to the large language model. So that is actually one of the big step up for the privacy in the AI applications. And we are also hiring. So we are hiring engineers, and we are also hiring BD and marketing people to join the team. So here's my contact information. Just feel free to contact me. So that is it for the talk. I think yesterday I have to keep the talk short within 20 minutes. So I only have 20 minutes to do the talk, but also I have another additional 5 minutes for the demos. But today when I re-record this, I have more time. So I spend 40 minutes to do the talk and also the demo, blend them together. Hopefully to give you a quick overview of how we built AIGNE. We actually built AIGNE by not building AIGNE. We built Astro, astrology applications, and this Astro eventually we actually started building Astro. So Astro is astrology applications, and by building the Astro applications, we figure out what we need to build for AIGNE. So that's how we do things. So one of the advantage when I see the similar other large language model applications, what I see the big difference is I found a lot of those LLMOps applications, they do not, I don't feel they understand the user's requirement or what user really need well. I believe that because they just focus building the large language model ops but they do not have the real first-hand experience on how to build the applications. So for our team, so we started by building the application itself, and then that helped us to gain a deep understanding what we really need. And during we built the Astro application, we also try to evaluate and try to use any of those kind of ops application in the market, and then we have a better understanding of what others are doing. And then when we make this into the ops application like AIGNE, I think we understand what the developer really need better. So that's how we do things. I think that's pretty much. And thanks a lot for coming. And I hope you come. I hope you join our private beta and try to build some cool large language model applications, just like Astro, like we did. And hope you expect to see your application here. Thank you.